Welcome to Echoes of the Nile, where we journey through the sands of time to uncover the secrets of ancient Egypt. I'm Kieran, and today, we're diving deep into the mysteries of one of the greatest civilizations in human history.
Ancient Egypt has fascinated the world for centuries. The pyramids, the mummies, the pharaohs, there's something almost magical about this civilization. But beyond the well-known landmarks, there's a rich history that shaped not only Egypt but also the world.
So, let's start at the very beginning. How did this civilization rise to greatness?
Egypt's story begins over 5,000 years ago, around 3100 BC. Back then, Egypt wasn't one unified kingdom. It was divided into two regions: Upper Egypt in the south and Lower Egypt in the north. Yes, it sounds backward, but it's because the Nile River flows from south to north.
Then came a leader named Narmer, also known as Menes, who united these two lands, becoming Egypt's first pharaoh. This unification marked the beginning of the early dynastic period and set the stage for a civilization that would last for over 3,000 years.
But what made Egypt thrive for so long? The answer lies in the Nile River. The Greek historian Herodotus called Egypt the gift of the Nile, and he wasn't wrong. The river provided fertile land for agriculture, allowing Egypt to grow enough food to support a powerful kingdom.
The Nile also played a crucial role in trade and transportation. Imagine an ancient highway made of water, connecting different parts of the country. It allowed goods, ideas, and even cultural influences to flow freely.
Now, when people think of ancient Egypt, the first thing that comes to mind is the pyramids. These colossal structures weren't just impressive buildings, they were tombs for the pharaohs, designed to help them reach the afterlife.
The most famous pyramid, the Great Pyramid of Giza, was built for Pharaoh Khufu during the Old Kingdom around 2600 BCE. It stood at an astonishing 146 meters or 481 feet tall. Even today, we still debate how the Egyptians managed to build such massive structures with primitive tools.
But here's an interesting fact: despite what Hollywood movies tell us, the pyramids weren't built by slaves. Recent discoveries show that they were built by skilled laborers who lived in nearby worker villages. They were well fed, had medical care, and were even honored with proper burials.
But why did the Egyptians build pyramids in the first place? It all ties back to their strong belief in the afterlife. The Egyptians believed that death wasn't the end, it was just the beginning of another journey. But to make it to the afterlife, a person's body had to be preserved. That's where mummification came in.
The process of mummification was highly ritualistic. First, embalmers removed the internal organs, which were placed in special canopic jars. The body was then dried out using natron salt and wrapped in layers of linen. Some mummies were even buried with amulets and charms for protection. One of the most famous burial texts was the Book of the Dead. It wasn't actually a book, but a collection of spells meant to guide the soul through the afterlife. The Egyptians believed that the soul had to pass a series of tests before reaching Eru, the field of reeds, their version of paradise.
And then, there's the famous curse of the pharaohs. You've probably heard stories of archaeologists dying mysteriously after opening tombs. But in reality, these so-called curses were more about scaring off tomb robbers than actual supernatural events.
Speaking of pharaohs, let's talk about some of the most legendary rulers of ancient Egypt. One of the greatest was Ramses II, also known as Ramses the Great. He ruled for 66 years, led massive military campaigns, and built the stunning Abu Simbel temples. His reign was so powerful that later pharaohs tried to take credit for his achievements.
But Egypt wasn't just ruled by men. Some queens left an incredible mark on history. Queen Hatshepsut, for example, ruled as a pharaoh, even dressing in traditional regalia, including the false beard. She expanded trade, built magnificent temples, and proved that a woman could be just as powerful as a man in ancient Egypt.
Then there's Nefertiti, famous for her beauty and her role alongside Pharaoh Akhenaten. Together, they tried to change Egypt's religion by worshipping a single god, the sun disk Aten. And of course, there's Cleopatra, the last ruler of Egypt before it fell to Rome. She was a brilliant strategist and diplomat, fluent in multiple languages, and known for her relationships with Julius Caesar and Mark Antony.
Now, how do we know so much about ancient Egypt? Because they left behind a written record. The Egyptians used a writing system called hieroglyphs, made up of over 700 symbols. For centuries, no one could understand them until the discovery of the Rosetta Stone in 1799.
The Rosetta Stone had the same text written in 3 scripts: Greek, Demotic, and hieroglyphic. Using it, a French scholar named Jean-François Champollion finally cracked the code in 1822, allowing us to read Egypt's ancient texts. So, with all its greatness, how did Egypt decline?
Over time, Egypt faced invasions from powerful empires. The Assyrians, Persians, and later Alexander the Great all took control. By the time of Cleopatra, Egypt was no longer the mighty empire it once was. In 30 BC, after Cleopatra's death, Egypt became a province of Rome, marking the end of ancient Egyptian rule. But even though the empire fell, Egypt's influence never disappeared.
Ancient Egypt shaped the world in ways we often don't realize. Their architectural techniques influenced later civilizations. Their medical practices, like using honey as an antiseptic, are still relevant today. Even our modern calendar is based on the one they developed thousands of years ago. And of course, Egypt continues to fascinate people worldwide. Every year, millions of tourists visit the pyramids, explore the temples, and marvel at the treasures of Tutankhamun. Even in pop culture, from movies to video games, the legacy of ancient Egypt is everywhere.
So, that's a glimpse into the incredible history of ancient Egypt.
From mighty pharaohs to mystical tombs, this civilization continues to captivate us even today.
That's it for today's journey into the world of knowledge. I hope you found this episode as fascinating as I did. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to subscribe to Infosphere for more incredible stories and insights.
Have thoughts or questions? Drop them in the comments or reach out on social media. I'd love to hear from you. Until next time, stay curious and keep exploring.